Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Imagine It Podcast. Cathy, it's good to see you again. Welcome back to the episode. I
Thank
just
you,
got a
Benjy.
comment yesterday from some brother that I'm working with, and he was telling me that how he appreciated the episode that you did with me about masculinity and femininity. So,
Oh,
yeah, we haven't talked in a bit, Cathy, but how are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Yeah, a little nervous today since because of that. We haven't chatted in a while, so hopefully we provide you guys with something good.
I'll be nervous with you. Is that all right?
Sure.
Hey everyone. Yes. I always count how many times I say or in every video I make, just because I'm insecure like that. And I'm just kidding. And I just covered my bases just now. So, Cathy, we were just chatting right now, everyone, about our 2025 goal and beyond, blessing 1,000 couples. We are and you were telling me you're pretty invested in this, right, in your role. And so what is your role, by the way, so everyone's clear with the BFM?
So my role is the blessing coordinator for subregion 2.
Okay, blessing coordinator, subregion 2. And so that's my subregion,
That's
right?
right.
North Carolina. Yep.
Yep.
And so I'm really curious to hear your thoughts, because you've been pondering on this quite a bit. How are we going to do this? How are we going to do it? Right. And I say that with a little bit of a, question in my mind, like, are we going to pull it off? But really how, that's the aim. And if I know Uncle Double D well enough, Damien, he's the kind of guy that shoots for the moon and
Mhm.
and knows that at least we won't land with nothing if we do that. And I think that's a wise way to make goals, right? Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, so I wanted to kind of pick your brain and figure out, like, what are you thinking? What are you actually doing? Because you're actually doing stuff, actualizing, substantiating this goal through action. So what are your thoughts,
Mhm.
Cathy?
Okay. Wow, that's a loaded question because there's so many ways to go about this goal. Um, my initial thought when I heard that goal
Hmm.
and knowing that the blessing it seems far away, but when you think about the process it takes to get from being matched to being blessed, it's like time, it's like a crunch time right now because if people want to go to this blessing, they need to start meeting now and having
Hmm.
the initial conversations take place and making sure that it's a good fit, they like each other, they want to commit, and they want to be blessed,
Yeah.
right? So that was always my I guess my fear is that we may be starting a little too late. And some people will take a full 7 months to talk, but some people feel like they need a longer, shorter, whatever. And then there's also, where are we going to find these candidates? Like, where are you guys? And and I get a lot of feedback from candidates that I work with
Hmm.
when it comes to the website Blessing for You. And much of that feedback is like, I'm combing through it every day, my parents are looking through it every day, and there's never a lot of people on there. And so that's one comment, but I hear it quite often. And I agree and disagree to an extent.
Hmm.
And yeah, and then lastly, how do you not get across the fact that this is a campaign, but we really want to, communicate that this is, yes, it is a campaign. There's a number to hit, but we don't want our candidates to feel like they are just a number. We want them to feel excited and happy and willing to go to the blessing, right? We don't want them to feel that we are approaching them simply because we have a goal to fulfill. We want to feel that our care for you and your happiness and your lifelong blessing is top of the line, our first the most important thing that we want to approach. So yeah, so those are a lot of my thoughts going into this campaign.
Yeah. And so what have you been working on in that vein?
Um, so concretely, a couple of things. So right now we have a national call among matching supporters happening twice a month. And but also beginning tomorrow, actually, I'm leading a sub-regional call, and I feel like most sub-regions are also doing this for matching supporters, and it's gonna be twice a month. So essentially, you're gonna have a call every month amongst matching supporters. So we also want to extend that to maybe amongst parents and pastors, so that we're running into this, into this situation where, like, for example, I have two candidates that I work with who are adamant that they meet someone not through the website, but naturally, meaning by connection, by a referral. Like a friend goes to them and says, listen, I think you'd be a great fit for this person. So they're like, I don't want to be put on the website. I don't want to be marketed, like being shopped around for. I want to meet someone through a friend. So a lot of times I get that, and I'm thinking, as a matching supporter, I'm 36, and a lot of my candidates are like in their early 20s. So I don't really know a lot of people in that age range. I know most of my candidates like older siblings if they have them. And so I'm finding like it hard to kind of know who's out there if they're not on the website. And of course we encourage everyone to be on the website, because there's a lot of preparation, right, to be on this website, and a lot of internal preparation. So that the people posting themselves on there are genuinely committed and ready to begin this matching conversation and journey. Whereas if you're just thinking about someone and they're not on the website, you have to find out, are they even ready to take that step? Are they even thinking about the matching or blessing? And then of course, where are these people and who are they and who knows them? So it poses a little bit of a difficulty. So one of the things that I want to kind of roll out, it was an idea by a senior matching supporter, is this idea of not like an invisible profile. So it's a profile form that you fill out, but won't be on the website. It's for people who are maybe a little bit distant from the church, but still want to receive the blessing. It's for people who don't want to be put on the website like at all. Even if they have an invisible profile on the website, that turns them off. They just want for people to know that they're available, and it's for something to give to people to see. So I guess they've done this a while back, and which I think could help, because there are many matching supporter convocations that I've been on online, and every candidate that's been displayed is everyone that's already on the blessing website, on the Blessing for You website or OMS. So there's no one different that we're really talking about. So with these invisible profiles, we can show people who's wanting to be matched and blessed, but they just don't want to be on the website at all. So that's one thing that we might incorporate. Of course, still strongly encouraging the being on Blessing for You, as it makes it so much easier for this process. And then secondly, on a sub-regional level, I'm preparing a level 2 workshop in North Carolina, where Benjy is gonna be, which is awesome. Really excited.
I'll try to stop by.
Yeah, he'll try. You
It's
gave
like
me
15
your
minutes.
word.
It's like 15 minutes from my house. I'll try.
Oh, good. That's good. I'm glad.
To spare.
Oh, that's awesome. And well, as per Damien Dunkley's request, we are trying to encourage more in-person blessing education, and I think that's to foster togetherness, to be able to meet other people and go through the experience together instead of just doing everything online. I think it becomes more of a deeper experience when you experience it in person and with other people. So I would encourage everyone to check with your local leaders about any upcoming blessing education workshops, because you will need that in order to get blessed. And then lastly, we're having this big matching supporter or BFM meeting in Las Vegas a couple weeks from now. And we are going to be creating teams and tackling different categories. We're going to tackle BC's 22 to 35, BC's 35 and over, first gens and intergen couples, parent support. And we're going to have teams and committees ready to help in each of these areas. So yeah, so that's kind of what we're rolling with. right now, and I think there's going to be a lot more to come.
Got it. I love it. It's practical. Lots of practical stuff.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? I have some questions that are on my heart, and I know some of our listeners have, and I'm going to ask them in a second. But they're going rather deep. It's going to stir up some emotions in people. I know.
I like that.
Is there anything that so you mentioned what people can do, right? Right now, if they want to get blessed next year or whenever people listen to this episode, sometime, let's say in the next year, where do they go? Where do they start? Who should they connect with? Do you feel like sufficiently answer that for people?
I feel so the beauty of the matching process is it is a parent-child team. And you first and foremost go to your parents and you express to them that you are ready to go this route. And I think your parents hopefully will know the next steps. But if they don't, it's not, I highly suggest you contact a matching supporter who's kind of been trained about how to get started, right? How to find your profile, how to complete it, what paperwork you need, so on and so forth. If not, a local pastor would know who to contact, or maybe even your local pastor might even be a matching supporter. Many of them were encouraging to become matching supporters so they know the process and can help. So we're actually right now trying to get as many parents and pastors to become certified matching supporters so they know exactly what to do. So that would be my first suggestion. If you want to start, I highly suggest you have that conversation with your parents. I think it's one thing to prepare externally, but it's also another thing to do the internal preparations. And many candidates find a lot of value in doing, conditions together with their parents, or just, starting to begin to share their heart about what the matching and blessing means for you and for your future family. And I think that's a beautiful way to begin this process.
Yeah, having faith makes everything smoother and easier. Just look at everyone that went to True Parents Matching,
Yeah.
But I want to find a healthy medium, and that's what I think we're getting to here. So are you open for business, Cathy? Matching sporting, I mean.
Yeah, I am. I had put a cap earlier this year.
Yeah.
But because of this
1,000
campaign,
people. Your cap is 1,000 people.
yeah, I will take on whoever needs help.
Oh my Jesus Christ Almighty. Lord's name in vain, right here. Okay, so do you have like a screening process that you go through to work with people?
Oh my gosh. That's interesting because I do not.
Ooh,
Um,
you're a personal
yeah,
trainer. You're a personal trainer. How do you not have it?
I yeah, I kind of go by what they need. And if they need me to do some, most of the heavy lifting, I would have a meeting with their parents to kind of discuss how this is going to play about, like my role, parents' role, kids' role.
You're talking
If they're
about
kind of pretty
physical training, right? Your physical.
oh, yeah, well, personal training is a little bit different. I do screen for, like,
Someone needs
compensations,
if
injuries, limitations.
you're holding all the doing all the heavy lifting, you talk to their parents.
Uh, yeah, I'm so used to doing the heavy lifting. It's actually quite the opposite with the matching process, where I have to tell the parents and the child to do the bulk of it. I'm here to guide you, but you need to do the work yourself. Yeah, so it's funny that you mentioned that because, yeah, I'm so used to doing the heavy lifting. I need to remember to let other people take over.
Well, what I understand from personal training is that one part of your job, correct me if I'm wrong, is to really know when someone is reaching a limit and then pushing them the right way and not letting them slack off, right?
Right. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
having somebody there. And that's the intimidating part, right? That's, I guess, why I've never had a personal trainer myself. But so do you relate that with your working as a matching supporter with people?
Yes, that's a great question because I just had this conversation with one of my candidates, and this candidate had been reached out to by many, many brothers, and with almost every single one, she decided not to move forward for whatever reason. And then she finally been contacted by another person, and who she actually knew, and would label this person as a friend. But her first reaction after having thought about it, maybe after a couple of days, was that, because I know this person, I don't think we're going to be a good fit. So then, as a matching supporter who believes otherwise and knows the potential in giving people a shot, because you see their resume, right? You see what they've done to prepare. Now, this gentleman took a year to approach the sister, and he had the greatest heart behind it. Do you hold back and just kind of not say anything and just be like, okay, I understand, like, the gentle approach of being like, well, it's, you're in control, this is your process, whatever you want? Or do you step in and say, can you tell me a little bit more about why you're deciding to cut this off right away? So I went the other route. I decided to push a little bit more in a safe way. And after we had this conversation, she said she went and talked to her parents, because she actually didn't expect me to say that, to encourage her to look into why are we saying no so quickly to this type of person. And she actually decided, listen, can I actually, I know it doesn't look good, but can I go back to this person and say, I changed my mind and I would like to start a conversation? And it kind of floored me. And she actually went and had a wonderful first conversation, and they decided to begin the process. So it's a little bit complicated after that point, but the fact of the matter is, as matching supporters, as parents, we do encourage our candidates to take the reins. This is your matching process. At the end of the day, it's your decision. This is all true. However, as matching supporters and as parents who are there to guide, by, through God's viewpoint and seeing the value in both the candidate we're working with, but also the potential candidates that are reaching out, if we feel it in the right, if it's the right fit and we feel that there's something beautiful about a potential match, don't feel like you have to say, like, take a step back and just let the candidate say yes, no, whatever. If they're kind of just looking at the, shall I say, shallow perspective. I don't exactly know how else to say that, or the external perspective. But really encourage digging deep and pushing forward, and encouraging them to go over their limit of what they think they can handle. Because at the end of the day, if it's good for them and they feel it in their heart, it's going to benefit them in the long run. So yeah, I've kind of had to kind of put that into practice by, like in my beginning personal training clients who are kind of just babies getting into the swing of things and starting with the 5 and 10 pounders. At some point, after some training, you now have to do a little bit of a heavier lifting. And that means I need to be a little bit more forward with you. I need to be a little bit more straightforward with my responses, but it's all in the name of love. And so as parents, don't be afraid, or as matching supporters, don't be afraid to encourage them to really think about their choices and why they are either declining or they're choosing a different route. If you feel like, the reason is too external or doesn't really fit the bill. So yeah, so great question. Yes, I've had to do that a few times.
That's fantastic. I like it. I like it. Thank you, Cathy, for helping people. And I hope that people will reach out to you through this episode. Probably find you on Instagram or Facebook, right?
Yeah.
And you might have to have a screening process.
Exactly.
Now,
I probably will have to at this point.
A little bit application form and see if you qualify, do an interview, that kind of thing. I don't do matching supporting anymore. I did for like 10 years, no more than 10 years. And stopped because I realized that I am really bad at helping people find people. It's just
Really?
it's just not how I work. I believe that women are generally better at connecting people. And
Hmm.
so people ask me like, Benji, like I'm this age and I'm this person, and do you have anyone in mind? I'm like, yeah, I've like 1,000 people in mind. Like, just pick one. You know, it's
Yeah,
like,
so true.
yeah,
Yes.
I have like 1,000. I have this ongoing list of people. I'm just like, any of these people, like they have faith, they have all the foundations. Just pick one, and you'll make it work. So I've
Pick
been
one.
beating that drum for a while. That I think there's a healthy medium between absolute faith and absolute no faith.
Hmm.
I want to get into that now.
Sure.
You mentioned candidates that don't want to do the work. They don't want to go on a website. They, in your words earlier, you said they just want to benefit from the blessing without
Hmm.
doing work for the blessing or even understanding what the blessing is. And so my question to you, genuinely curious, is why do people want to get blessed if they don't want to get blessed?
Oh, I ponder about this all the time.
Mhm.
And I don't think I have the correct answer, but I can assume an answer. And this really just stems from so many different experiences, right? Amongst even my friend group
Mhm.
who don't think of themselves as being a part of the church anymore. However, they will attend if there's a big gathering. They will attend because other families with great kids are attending and they want to be a part of that environment. And also with friends who don't want to go the way of the blessing anymore, but they do want to find another BC to get blessed with, but they just don't want to go to the blessing. And I find that honestly a little painful to hear because, I feel like the blessing, when we think about it, it's part of who everybody is. And it is really how these amazing people, you know, our first gen, but our second gen, third gen, who were growing up in this surrounding and this environment are blossoming into these incredible people that you want to marry. And, but why are they like that? And if you can't attribute that to the fact that we received a certain way of life, a certain way of a value system that kind of shaped who these people are, but you want to be a part of that, but yet you don't want to be a part of the thing that kind of helped establish that. I think that's a huge, huge contradiction, and unfortunately, a very big red flag, in my opinion. And it's actually just so painful to deny the fact that the reason why so many of our young people are such incredible people is because of this blessing that we've been given, this way of life, this tradition that our true parents have established for us, and encouraging God-centered families. And you want to take all that, but you don't want to be a part of it because you don't want to be a part of the blessing. You don't want to be a part of the church. But where is that going to take you? Is that going to lead you closer to creating a family, creating a relationship that's also so beautiful that you want to be a part of? If you're not participating in this, and if you go the other way, what is that going to look like? Um, so that's been really weighing heavily on my mind
Yeah,
for many years, especially since I got into this role of helping people find, eternal spouses.
which is not a easy task.
No, it's probably one of the hardest things they
People
do.
want, so what I heard you say is people want the destination without the journey.
Yeah, yeah,
People want the six-pack abs without putting time under the bar.
yeah. More time in the kitchen.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. I do. Uh, so it brings up curiosity in me for you, Cathy. What is it about you? Because you mentioned your, people are friend groups. What is it about you that clearly you have a conviction and a blessing in your faith that hasn't wavered? And even though I might add, generally speaking, people that after they get married and have kids and go on with work and life tend to forget about, the internal, generally speaking, God, faith, importance, right? Understandably, we've talked about this in a previous episode, but for you in particular, what has your journey been that has led you to just keep a conviction in this road?
Um, I think about this all the time.
Mm,
Only because people ask me this question many
sure.
times. Yeah. Part of me I feel is it's also in my character. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know if I mentioned before, but like, I'm from a family of six, and we're all so different in how we approach faith.
Mm,
And we all love our parents very much. But when it comes to like, topics of going to the blessing or knowing who your parents are, do you want to be a part of this? There's probably a couple who are very like, I'm all in,
mm,
I want the blessing. I want to live a blessed life. I want to create a blessed family. Then there's another half where, sorry, not a half, a third of us who are kind of like, I don't know where it's going to take me. I'm open to it, but not really. I got to see what's out there and make a decision type of thing. And then there's maybe the other third who are just like, I don't want a part of it. I don't even want to entertain it,
mm,
but we all grew up in very similar fashion with the same principles, but yet we kind of interpret it differently, our life experiences. And I think it has a lot to do, maybe ancestral, maybe character, nature versus nurture, and how you internalize things that happened to you as a kid. But more than that, I think as I grew up, what I saw in our movement versus what I saw outside of our movement
mm,
has grounded me more towards wanting the way of life in our movement. And that's been established more and more as I grew up. And even now, as in adulthood, I was recently having a brunch with some moms, and this was a table of maybe 12 of us, 12 moms, all ranging from having babies at like 5 months old to some moms who have like teenagers,
mm,
right? And we did this activity. The birthday girl that we were having a brunch for brought out some like conversation cards, and she asked each of us to pick a conversation card and answer the question. And one of the moms got a card that said, what are two pieces of advice that you can give about living and creating a lifelong marriage? And her answer was, I don't have an answer because I'm not in one.
mm,
And every single mom, remember, there's 12 of us, 10 moms on that table all said, I got nothing. And I was shocked. And I was actually very sad. Like, not one of these moms who have children who've been married, but just keeping it like alive just because they feel like they have to. Not one of them has a healthy, happy marriage.
mm,
Except, and it really drew, like, it has dawned on me that I stay because in the beginning, I saw the love between my parents. I saw the love in the community. I saw the kind of love that I got from the friends I gained from the movement. And then when I started the matching process and found a husband that I have, and compared him to how the guys outside the church were acting, it was really a no-brainer for me. Like, this is the environment that I like, and this is the kind of environment that will withstand everything else that life throws at you, you know? And so I really think it all comes down to the fact that when I see what the outside world has to offer versus what we have here and what I am creating with my family, not everything is peachy, not everything is perfect all the time, but I can at least say that I have a healthy, happy, thriving marriage. I have beautiful kids. I feel like I have a home every time I visit my family, every time I visit other blessed families. It's really when we receive the matching and the blessing, yes, we become a part of this movement, but it's more than that. It's really becoming a part of this worldwide family that you really feel. I don't know about you, Benji, but I feel like so many people, like we have this Facebook group, right? The BC Travel Connection, where if you're traveling to a different country, whether it's like Japan or Korea or, somewhere in Europe, and you need a place to stay, someone knows somebody that will open their doors for you in a second. I don't really know of any other faith community that has this strong connection where you feel like just because you're in this same movement and same faith family, that you feel like that person is ultimately your aunt or your uncle, and you can spend the time with them as though you've known them your whole life. So so many benefits to why I choose to go this route, and I think that is probably the biggest aspect for me that I
Yeah.
focus on.
Got it. Yeah, thank you. It's helpful to hear just families, because I think we can all think of families that we know that are like grow up in the same environment, same siblings, same school, same parents, same rules, and just have completely different outlooks on life. And
Yeah.
that's very fascinating. But the word you said is, I think, perception
Yeah.
of things, right? So, have you had any? Have you had a personal faith kind of conversion experience yourself? Because I'm asking that because an argument could be said that all the benefits of our movement could be had through just going to a really cool mega Christian church. And that's
Sure.
what a lot of people gravitate towards. It's like, oh, let's go to the church that has the best Sunday school and music or worship.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, well, why not just go there instead of our little family fed church that is
Right.
not well attended and doesn't have great music and doesn't have a Sunday school, right? So what's the difference? You know what I'm saying? So there's
Yes.
got to be something. I'm looking for something deeper than just
Mhm.
has the biggest, awesomest church in music. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's definitely not that for me. I don't think I've ever belonged to a community with the biggest, best music. For a little bit of time, South Florida had an awesome band. We don't anymore.
Well,
Uh,
I think you do have a level of faith that is, okay, let's put it a different way. I was having this conversation with Milhan just this last week. And we were meeting in person and I was asking him this question. I was like, what is it? What is the element of somebody that goes through experience and says, wow, the church is evil and wrong and stupid and all churches are satanic and God is not real versus someone that goes through that and says, wow, everyone has free will and personal responsibility and people are in pain and I'm going to grow through this. Like, what's the difference between those people if they grow up in the same environment? And he said,
mm,
his words were, it's those people didn't have faith to begin with.
mm,
How is it that some people can go through the love and life thing? I know a lot of people listening didn't experience that like we did, right?
yeah.
People can go through the collapse of love and life. By the way, I became a pastor. I was a pastor at 19 years old. I became a pastor at 19 years old, a as a college university student. And the same week that I started being a pastor, Chief Father died,
Oh
and
my
then
gosh.
life tanked. Okay. Think of the implications. Chief Father dies. Love and Life was giving sermons and doing music for every church in America for years. And
Yeah.
now it's like, hey, welcome to being a pastor. You have to decide, Benji, if you're going to give a sermon every week and organize Sunday service. Okay. And so how is it that some people can go through that, all that experience? Everyone has their different, faith journey in relation with our movement. And some
Yeah.
people go, well, yeah, people have free will and we're all flawed. And some people go, wow, I'm so hurt and angry and offended.
Mm,
So what is that? And Milhan said they didn't have faith to begin with.
mm.
What do you think?
Um, you know, I think I can kind of summarize, at least from what I think, is when people talk about going to church and having faith, many people think faith is really all that is that it's about the church and it's about the leaders. And what I'm coming to realize is that people, when they talk about faith, they often talk about the people leading the church. So they're putting their faith in the politics of what a church is and how it's being run. They're putting their faith in Ingenim. They're putting their faith in true parents. But what I'm realizing is that people are so busy putting their faith in these leaders that they're not cultivating actual faith with God. Because I think that is a central point. And when you don't have a real life, real relationship with God, then you will be rocked by everything that is happening in the church. You know, for example, it doesn't even have to be a unification church. It can be just a Christian church. You walk into a Christian church and you're so excited. There's awesome music. The sermon was great. But yet after maybe a fellowship, then you start talking to some of the members in the church, and it's like, and these people are talking maybe negatively. They're not the kind of people who embodies Christ, right? Like they're gossiping, they're saying not nice things about other people. And then you walk away from the church from an amazing music, amazing sermon, but yet you had a really negative experience about the people that was in the church. And then you walk back and be like, huh, I mean, it sounded good, but I mean, this can't be a church that praises God, because the people in it are like, look at them. They're nothing like Jesus. They're gossiping, they're doing this, they're doing that. And then it's like going to I heard this comparison a long time ago. It's like someone going into a hospital and expecting completely healthy people all the time, everywhere. That's just not how it works. Church is where people who are feeling lost and broken are going to heal, to find a connection with God. And if you're looking for perfect leaders, perfect everything, to make you feel like everything in life is perfect, then you're missing the point of what religion is meant to be. Religion is meant to inspire you to become closer to God, not to the music, to the sermon, to whatever. Those are all different ways to kind of like touch your heart, because everyone is moved in a different way. But you will never find perfect people. And if you're looking for a perfect person in our true parents, they had to work to get there. They had to work to become the people. And you know what? At the end of the day, they're still human beings with real trials, with real temptations that God has, that Satan is putting on them, that they need to surpass. So if we're criticizing true parents, if we're criticizing the leaders, we're criticizing anything small about our church, we're really missing the point about creating and cultivating a real relationship with a living God. So I think, in my experience, that's how I'm viewing this.
Yeah, thank you. It's beautiful. Got it. Yeah, thank you, Cathy. It's been an interesting few weeks. Last week I was at a workshop at a camp with a bunch of families and parents, and I was talking with a lot of the guys, the dads there, and it's interesting, on the surface, like people are blessed and have, by the way, Cathy, like I'm not some saint or some angel that I'm just, absolute faith all the time. It's like, no, I'm not that. But I will say this, I'll tell you the conclusion of this story and then how we got there. I am not afraid to work through my anger and face it and let it out. And doing so has healed me to the point where I realized that behind anger is always an opportunity for growth and immense recovery and healing and tears. And so I say this because I understand what it's like to be angry at people, at organizations, at myself, even at God, at my wife, at my kids. I know what it's like to be angry, but I'm not afraid to let that anger out with the right people, and then let my tears flow through that, because that's really what's trying to happen. Because anger is a secondary emotion. Anger is a reaction. It's not a primary emotion. It's a secondary emotion, which is a reaction to a primary emotion, which is usually fear, insecurity, ultimately feeling a lack of love, right? And so how we got to this conclusion, especially in recent weeks, I was with a bunch of dads at a camp, and I was just talking, as we do, about stuff and kids and family, and the topics of faith and church came up, right? And these are people that are blessed and have kids, and I was like, okay, they must have some level of faith, right? One of them, I asked him when he was blessed, and he said he doesn't remember because he doesn't count his blessing. Another guy, I was talking to a different guy, we were talking about True Mother, and he called her Hak Jahan. And my heart sank because it felt like somebody calling my mother by her first name.
Yeah.
Brother calling my mom by first name. And I thought, I was really hurt. I didn't say it to him because I didn't you know, it wasn't the place to stir up, you know, drama. But my heart sank because I was like, how dare you call mom by her first name? Do you have any respect? Do you have any gratitude at all for your life itself? Do you have any gratitude at all for your spouse that has been given to you or your children? And so what I saw in these guys was anger and resentment that they have not dealt with. And that's what made me sad, actually. It's not that they're angry. It made me sad that they haven't looked at that anger in the mirror and tried to deal with it and try to surpass it and try to be bigger than it and try to let the healing and the tears that want to come up behind that anger, but rather people, these guys in particular, and we all have it to some extent, put up this wall, this artificial form of blockage that we put up every time that anger comes up when we say, oh yeah, I'm right. I'm right. Your parents are wrong. Your mother's wrong. I know what's best. I know what's best. I am so insightful that I know what your mother should do. That's what this guy was saying. I'm so insightful that Hak Jahan should do this way. I'm so insightful that I don't believe my blessing date really matters that much. You flew all the way to Korea and you don't remember the date that you got blessed. Really? There's some serious anger that needs to be addressed there. There's some serious trauma, right? And I'm saying this because there's anytime we're angry, this goes for all of us, anytime we're pointing fingers, anytime we are blaming others, there is always indication. It's indicative that there's massive amounts of healing and growth behind just a few steps into that conversation. Just letting it out with the right person, in the right environment, with the right intentions to work through it. Not with your guy friends, you know, your negative, jaded second-gen buds that left the church. Not with your girlfriends that are going to gossip about who whatever. About the right people, people that are smart and will see through you and ask you questions just like you said, like, why? Why do you feel like that? What happened? What are you angry about? Who are you angry at? The church. Who? Who is the church? Cathy, I don't know about you. I am the church. I'm the church.
I do. Yeah.
People say, oh, I don't like the websites. Whatever. I'm the websites. I didn't make the websites. I know the people that made the websites, though. You know what I'm saying? I know the people that make these websites. They're human beings. People don't know this. This is a fact. We have, let's see, 2, 3 active websites right now, right? Matching websites. 2 of them are funded and run by members with their own blood, sweat, and money.
Yeah.
And we assume that it's the church that's making these websites. No, they're just people. And we're entitled enough to say, oh, the church should do this. Do you know that your mother is a 85, 83-year-old woman from North Korea? You think she's going to get Instagram? I've heard this. She should get Snapchat. You think she's going to do that? No, she's not going to do that. She should talk differently. No, she's not going to talk differently. She's a North Korean woman. She should, like, no, she's not going to do that. You do that. You get Instagram and you talk about your mother if you really care. She needs our help. And so I will not tolerate people being angry without trying to figure out why I'm angry and addressing it and looking just a few steps down into that conversation with ourselves in the mirror, pointing our fingers at ourselves and saying, you know what, there's something I got to grow through this. And I think there's an element of somebody that's willing to take responsibility for their emotions. It's a very vastly different person that says, you did this to me and I'm angry because of you, versus you did this thing and I'm angry and that's my fault. Very different. I'm feeling this emotion and that's my fault. You didn't make me angry. You didn't make me sad. You didn't make me resentful. You didn't make me bored. You didn't make me lonely. You didn't make my marriage crap. You didn't make my children whatever. I feel this way because of me. And that's a very, very different kind of caliber of person, right? And so my approach to faith, Cathy, and I'll throw it back to you, with these brothers, and we were talking in a group of men. We were having a small group discussion. And someone posed the question, like, how will you teach your children about the matching blessing? You know, these are 2nd gen, raising 3rd gen kids, right? They're saying, you know, you got blessed yourself. Are you going to teach them about the matching? And do you want them to get blessed? And the overall consensus was, yes, I would prefer that my children get matched within the faith and blessed, right? There's something that kind of irked me about that. I was like, I prefer, like, what do you mean you prefer? And so I was really thinking about this. And what I shared with the brothers, and I didn't realize this until now, is that I would prefer that my children have the faith that they would want to get blessed.
Yeah.
And I would rather them do that than get blessed for
Mhm.
any other reason. And I actually do dissuade them currently. As a 9 and 8-year-old, sorry, 9, 7, and 2-year-old, I tell them, you are not getting blessed if you don't want to get blessed. You are not going to university if you don't really want to go to university. You are not going to be doing anything unless you have a true, genuine reason. You're not getting a phone or any device unless you have a real reason to. And so in my family, I'm the gatekeeper for the blessing. And so what I told this group of brothers is like, I would actually prefer that they have true faith in the blessing, their own conviction.
Yeah.
And I would 1000% prefer that, 10,000%. I would rather they just, live a degenerate life on their own and learn their own lessons and eventually come back, which I believe they will, than to go to the blessing, because someone that hasn't been through hard times is someone that can't be trusted and can't be a good spouse.
Mm.
When I'm matching my own kids, if I'm looking for a son for my daughters, I've got 2 amazing daughters. If I'm looking for a son or for a husband for them, I will look for someone that has been through hard stuff, who has been through a porn addiction and has beaten it. I will look for that. If someone's never been through something difficult, they're going to struggle eventually and they're not going to know how to deal with it. They're going to hit stress. They're going to be anxious. They're going to be lonely. They're going to be depressed. They're going to have stresses at work and relationships, and they're not going to know how to deal with it. And so I'd rather have people that have been through hard times and have seen the other side. And so the big question I like underlying here, actually, I want to let you respond first before I ask you the next question. Add anything.
Yeah. There's a lot. Um, yeah, well, the more you talk about it, the more it kind of brings me back to other situations that I've heard about, including purpose for going to the blessing. You have a lot of parents who are on their kids' backs to go to the blessing, even though they don't want to. And then the parents come back to me and say, well, I mean, whether they go to the blessing, whether they want to go to the blessing or not, doesn't really matter. But shouldn't going to the blessing be at least better than not? And I'm still really thinking and praying over that. And I heard your answer, and honestly, I feel like I'm in the same camp, and I'm in the same position, and that I feel like if you go to the blessing, you better be going because you want to, because you know what it's about, and because you are convicted in the meaning and purpose of the blessing. I don't want you going to the blessing just because you're being told to go.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I'm also thinking God's heart is that everyone does go to the blessing, and that the blessing is a gift that we really can't earn. So I'm really caught in the middle about this. But at the end of the day, I still feel like the blessing will only become an actual blessing to you if you understand the purpose and the value of it. It's only going to make a difference in your life, in your marriage, and in your kids' lives if you understood the purpose and the value of it, and you had the real faith to include that as part of your family. So yeah, that was a very good.
It's kind of like a gift. If you see it as a gift and you appreciate it as a gift, you will appreciate it as a gift. But if you see it as something that you just want to open when you want to open, in some sense, that's the experience we're talking about. Like, I want to open my present when I want to open it.
Yeah.
And I want my present to be what I want it to be.
Right.
Rather than a true gift, it's given, it's benevolent, it's unexpected, and you don't know what you're going to get. But you know that it's going to be something great. And that's where that comes in. Right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a loaded topic, and I feel like we can talk about this the whole day.
That's why we're here. Thank you everyone for listening. We really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. So I want to swing back to this 1,000 couples. All right. So I think in our minds, there has to be a healthy medium between absolute faith and absolute no faith. Okay, so the example of absolute faith would be just throw away all forms of entitlement or expectations and just everything it takes. Absolute no faith being, I actually am only doing this because I don't want to disappoint my parents, or because everyone else is doing it, or because it's the easiest thing around and it's the only way I'll find a spouse, whatever the thing is, right? Another way that I like to say it is absolute gratitude or absolute entitlement. And if you have only absolute gratitude, then it's not a healthy situation, because you're often blinded by things that might come up, like a addiction or internal turmoil, or anger that comes up, but you kind of squash it down because, like, no, I should be grateful. I should be grateful. This is amazing. But also, if you have absolute entitlement, obviously it's not going to work, because you're just thinking, what can I get from this thing? So you need a healthy medium, because you need a little bit of entitlement. This is, maybe a different way of thinking about things, but I think a little bit of entitlement is healthy, because it allows you to acknowledge what you need and to go for that. I think it's healthy because it allows you to, in a healthy dose, of course, figure out what's needed and what you want, and then go for it. But we also need a gratitude, because then we're just left with entitlement. So what's this medium between absolute faith and no faith that we can come to? I think, to answer what you were saying, Cathy, just a note on the kind of dichotomy or dilemma between, I don't know how you worded it, but feeling, is it okay for people to get blessed, for the sake of it? Is it better than not getting blessed at all? I actually think about it a little differently, as more of a time thing, because I would say to my kids, or any matching candidate, you should get blessed eventually, but not now. And it only takes a bit, maybe a few months, a year, sometimes a few years, for you to kind of swing back and figure out what the blessing means to you, and then receive the blessing on that foundation. And your experience would be so much more uplifting, and you'd be able to fulfill what the blessing is about in the first place. Does that make sense? So that's kind of how I think about it. It's like, you can receive, don't receive the blessing now, but figure it out and then come back, right? Like that, instead of a either or, black or white situation.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the healthy kind of medium between, because we're trying to bless 1,000 couples right next year, and we don't want just the first 1,000 people in the door, right?
That's true.
But we want the first 1,000 people that are of high quality and high caliber to receive it.
Right.
So who are those people?
I have this presentation that I often refer to, and I like to give, because there are 4 points specifically about the purpose and the value of the blessing. And it ranges from, something easy to understand because it's less spiritual, to something very difficult to understand because it's super spiritual, and that's the lineage, right? So, and I tell people, there are 4 main points that I feel that you gain from the blessing. And one is, you become a part, or this membership of this community, this faith community. And for a lot of people, especially second gen, they love the church because of the people, right? Their friends, and the communities that they grew up in. But you become a part of this special group of people with overflowing love. And then you kind of have this validation that God and Satan can give you, and it becomes ultimately spiritual. But what I tell people is that you don't have to believe in all 4 of these things to receive the blessing. You don't have to be all in. You just have to realize that if there is purpose and value to this blessing, and you just have to accept like 2 of those points because you feel you can connect to it so deeply, then that is enough to start preparing yourself to receive the blessing. I mean, I've been blessed 10 years now, and I'm still really trying to wrap my head around how lineage works. Like, I don't completely understand it, but I understand that it's there. It's a part of it, conceptually, I get it. But you don't have to be all like, yeah, I'm totally gung-ho, I understand building God's kingdom, whatever. But if you feel like there is enough value in that, receiving the blessing can give you the greatest foundation for a healthy and successful marriage, and understanding the who it's given by, I think, and I think you said it. I think if you find gratitude in that, I mean, I think there could be a healthy medium where, if you feel that this is a gift and it can help you become, you know, a good, decent person and create a good, healthy family in the future. Like, I feel like that could be um somewhere in the middle of you just understanding and having gratitude and understanding the concept and the purpose and value to a degree of the blessing.
Mhm.
And obviously, yeah, for me, that would be my healthy medium in the middle.
Got it. Yeah, that's cool. So you received the blessing with a certain level of understanding of lineage, and then over time you've increased your understanding of that, right?
Right, exactly.
Got it. I think that's beautiful. That's helpful because it's actually through a certain lens, it's unreasonable to have a full understanding of the blessing without practicing it,
Yeah.
And I think if we think about it, then it's like, well, first of all, I mostly understand it, or how I like to see it is conviction level, like how much conviction I have in something. And if
Mm,
you're most of the way convicted, and then you leave the room open for curiosity, I think is an important. Like, let's say there's 4 buckets, and you have 2 that you're really convicted in, and then 2 you're kind of like, I don't really know what this is about, or
right,
maybe I have something there where I'm, skeptical, whatever. At least if
right.
there's curiosity, and both partners, like husband and wife, have that curiosity together, then
Yes.
over time, I think I've seen it, you will kind of feed each other's curiosity and try to grow and understand over time. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
But if people are lacking the curiosity, then it's like anytime the conversation comes up in marriage, it's like, well, we don't need to worry about true parents because we don't need to worry about divine principle because that's just a book. But if there's a curiosity, then when mother comes to Vegas, you're like, I want to go. You were there. You and I were
Mhm.
both there, right? When mother
Yeah.
came last year.
Yeah.
Mother comes to Vegas, I want to go because I'm curious, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And people only do that when they have that spark of curiosity in their eyes.
That's
And
right.
it's a beautiful thing. And I think we have to remain curious about things, all
Mhm.
things spiritual for sure.
Yes.
Mm.
That's a great way to put it. Curiosity versus just completely choosing to be ignorant and staying ignorant. And
Said it.
that's
She said it, not me, guys. Y'all ignorant. Man, shoot. Man, shoot. I grew up in the South and everyone says that. Man, shoot. Uh, my good friend Gene told me, Gene Honeycutt, he lives here in North Carolina. He says that skepticism is good. The question is if it's optimistic skepticism or pessimistic skepticism, because
right.
one is based in curiosity and one is based in ignorance and fear,
Right.
right? Um, the pessimistic side is just like, as soon as that conversation comes up, you put up a wall and say, okay, that's wrong, I'm right. And it's
Mm,
basically like looking at life through a little straw, little
yeah.
peephole. And you're looking at everything and you're like, okay, that's a table, that's white, that's a microphone, that's a computer. And then you're just concluding everything based on a little straw, little, peephole. But
Right.
skepticism with optimism is being aware that maybe there's more that I'm not seeing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's more to what mother is saying that I understand.
Right. For
Maybe there's more to the concepts of the blessing and spirituality and God's heart and absolute sex and all the main concepts we're talking about that I'm not seeing. That's a
Hmm.
curious person that's based in optimistic skepticism. And then when you looked at life through that, then it's like, okay, you can see the bigger picture. And then suddenly your field of view is larger and you can see that, oh, I'm in a room. This is a computer that's connected to a microphone that is conveying information into the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at mother, you see her whole life and mission as a whole holistic thing, as a messianic role right? And not just some woman from North Korea. And
Right.
so that was my whole journey, honestly, Cathy, of like going to Rebirth workshop last year, going to see her in Vegas, then taking my whole family to Chungpyeong for 2 weeks last year. It was like I realized I was looking at her through a little lens and saying, you know, true mother should do this. She should talk like this. I wish she would do that, and all these assumptions. And then I went to the Rebirth workshop and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just like all the people I make fun of all the time, being skeptical and entitled. And I realized like, man, I've been looking at such a limited lens through such a limited lens at mother. And then from that experience, I decided to be curious. I decided to, you know, study. And so now when I see she's giving a talk, or I get an email from Family Fed or from my subregion, okay, immediately I'm like, True Mother said something. And I noticed this in me. I was like, open immediately. And I never did that before.
Wow.
And I was like, what is going on? I'm changing into some old fart or something. But no, I'm a young fart for sure. And so my whole kind of paradigm has shifted for well, like mother is just because I was like, maybe there's more that I'm not seeing. And there is more that I'm not seeing, but at least now I'm seeing a big chunk of the picture. And so I feel more at peace with my faith. I feel like there's something here, and I don't feel anger. And that's kind of the message I wanted to convey on my part is I don't feel anger. And if people feel anger or resentment, maybe is a different word that people can resonate with is resentment, then look into the resentment, let it out. Like talk to your parents. This is why I tell parents who are like trying to talk about matching with their kids and their kids don't want to talk about it, then just fight them. Like fight your kids. Don't back off as soon as they go, I don't want to go to church. Like tell them like, why? I raised you in this faith. I've done everything I can. Tell me why. I don't want to go to church. I don't want to get the blessing. Tell me why. Fight your kids, for goodness sake.
Right.
Fight them in the right environment with the right heart. And behind the anger is immense opportunity for growth and healing and tears and all the good stuff we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Cathy, I'll let you have the last word and then we can close up.
No, I think that was a great way to end it because we talked about the blessing, we talked about resentment, and I think you hit the nail on the head. If you have so much anger and so much resentment and frustration, but yet you're choosing to sit in that and then disregard any conversation towards it, like ask yourself why. Why are you afraid to go in to go deep into this? You know, what is stopping you? And what what could come out of this if you decided to talk about it, if it, like you said, with the right people in the right environment. I think that is always really important, is that you're letting out this anger and this resentment and frustration within the space of the right people who will help you gain that curiosity that is optimistic and not dive deeper into the opposite and make you even more angry. And yeah, in terms of the parents asking the kids, why don't you want to go to church, why don't you want to go to the blessing, whatever, and your kids don't have an answer, then where is that anger and frustration really about? If they can't even verbalize why they don't want to be at church, why don't they like the blessing, then give me the reason. And perhaps if it was said and done in this environment that they feel safe, that they can open up, then maybe perhaps you can dig into some actual deeper issues. Maybe it's stemming from a parent-child relationship. Maybe it's stemming from something in the past that you could actually work towards. And yeah, so I think that was a great way to end it, Benji. I think if you have so much pent-up resentment and anger and you haven't addressed those yet, it takes a lot of courage to be able to do that. But coming out of it at the end, I think you're better off and you'll feel lighter and you'll feel, happier at the end of the day. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Cathy. Thanks for sharing. I think people really appreciate your story, your story arc, and your perspectives on things. So if you guys like us, you can request another episode with Cathy and I, and we'll make the time for it. All right. Thanks, Cathy. Lots of love, everyone. Take care. Go take a bath and drink a smoothie and go work out at the gym for our sake, for Cathy and I. All right.
That's right.
Peace.